Donald Trump's inaugural address, his first speech as president, lays out everything he sees as having gone wrong with America.
For many years, a radical and corrupt establishment has extracted power and wealth from our citizens.
He spoke of an America broken and in
complete disrepair, stumbling into a continuing catalog of catastrophic events abroad.
But then he described what will be an explosive blast of presidential power by executive order.
I will declare a national emergency at our southern border. And I will send troops to the southern border to repel the disastrous invasion of our country. Today, I will also declare a national energy emergency. We will drill, baby, drill.
It wasn't the kind of inaugural address that we typically hear, the grandiose visions for this and the big, thoughts and dreams. Instead, it was, here's what I'm going to do.
And this power Trump now wields, he plans to project.
We are going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America.
All of this in about 30 minutes. I'll take you through it.
For American citizens, January 20th, 2025 is Liberation Day.
These kinds of speeches are always a delicate dance. You're trying to be inclusive to assure those who didn't vote for you that everything will be okay.
National unity is now returning to America.
The most elusive of all things in a democracy, unity.
The Bible tells us how good and pleasant it is when God's people live together in unity.
But you're also trying to be clear that voters made the right choice, that the other side really screwed things up. Trump spent about a third of his speech doing this.
We now have a government that cannot manage even a simple crisis at home.
One thing Trump mentioned, the wildfires in LA, still uncontained, a catastrophe for which some Republicans blame Democrats.
This is a true tragedy, and it's a mistake of the governor, and you could say the administration. They don't have any water.
But Trump's assessment of America, giving it a failing grade.
We have an education system that teaches our children to be ashamed of themselves.
That ire extended to healthcare.
We have a public health system that does not deliver in times of disaster.
And to immigration.
It fails to protect our magnificent, law-abiding American citizens, but provides sanctuary and protection for dangerous criminals.
Trump is promising to undo some, or maybe much, of the work of the Biden administration.
My recent election is a mandate to completely and totally reverse a horrible betrayal and all of these many betrayals that have taken place.
And as Trump suggested in his speech, his mandate is divine.
Just a few months ago in a beautiful Pennsylvania field, an assassin's bullet ripped through my ear. But I felt then, and believe even more so now, that my life was saved for a reason. I was saved by God to make America great again.
So one thing that made Donald Trump's inaugural address so unusual was how he wasn't just telegraphing his next moves. He's stating pretty clearly what he plans to do. And we can guess from an earlier speech just how far he plans to go and how quickly.
Within hours of taking office, I will sign dozens of executive orders, close to 100 to be exact.
Trump says his first priority is to declare illegal immigration through the U.S. border with Mexico a national emergency.
So he did this in 2019 also. In 2019, he was trying to get Congress to put in money for his border wall, and they wouldn't do that. And so he declared an emergency, and that gave him access to the money. So by declaring a national emergency right away, well, part of that is that he's signaling that he's not going to work with Congress to do what he wants.
Trump wants to do a few things here. He wants to send the U.S. military, soldiers, to protect the border. He wants to officially designate foreign gangs as terrorists. He wants migrants with pending immigration hearings to stay in detention while they wait. And he wants asylum claimants from Mexico to stay in Mexico while they wait.
As Commander-in-Chief, I have no higher responsibility than to defend our country from threats and invasions, and that is exactly what I am going to do.
In his address, Trump also announced plans to roll back a series of climate change initiatives.
With my actions today, we will end the Green New Deal and we will revoke the electric vehicle mandate.
The Green New Deal was a congressional resolution that called for the U.S. to wean itself off of fossil fuels. The electric vehicle mandate, as Trump puts it, is a Biden-era rule that would have forced car makers to cut emissions in most new vehicles by half, starting in 2027, which amounted to a mandatory push towards electric vehicles. But revoking that mandate?
In other words, you'll be able to buy the car of your choice.
I think if you look at pretty much everything that President Biden did on this front, if it was an executive action, it's going to be rolled back. If you look at his campaign rhetoric, Donald Trump's, a lot of it was about opening up energy exploration, getting rid of red tape for that kind of thing. And I would imagine that he's going to go even further than he did last time.
And then there was a nod to a major culture war in the U.S.
I will also end the government policy of trying to socially engineer race and gender into every aspect of public and private life.
This is partially a nod to DEI in workplaces, diversity, equity, and inclusion, something that is fiercely controversial in the U.S. and which Trump sees as the opposite of a just merit-based system. But his comment about gender.
It will henceforth be the official policy of the United States government that there are only two genders, male and female.
A president can give this kind of guidance and say the government only recognizes there are two genders, and that has implications for how the government, implements the laws that have actually been passed. So this isn't something where it goes beyond that. It is actually probably relatively limited, but it does send a signal about his intentions.
And that could mean something different in every state, and it could mean different things probably in the military for sure.
But even all of this is just the beginning, the opening punches of a 4-year fight.
I will fight for you, and I will win for you. We're going to win like never before.
It's worth noting that the one time Joe Biden and Kamala Harris stood as the room gave Trump a standing ovation was when he began talking about his ability not just to reshape America, but the rest of the world.
My proudest legacy will be that of a peacemaker and unifier. I'm pleased to say that as of yesterday, one day before I assumed office, the hostages in the Middle East are coming back home to their families.
But it's interesting, of course, what's actually happening here. Biden and Harris aren't applauding Trump. They believe the ceasefire in Gaza was their achievement, not his. It was negotiated on their watch, and they disagree with Trump that he was the key to getting it done.
Thank you.
Brooks, credit for this, Mr. President, you or Trump?
Is that a joke?
But it's this phase of Trump's speech, the last 10 minutes, which was all about a projection of power.
A short time from now, we are going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America.
This is something Trump has hinted at in the past, something that he can certainly do for all federal references to the Gulf, but which might have a harder time catching on internationally.
He can do it when it comes to what the United States government recognizes. What he can't do is say, other countries need to recognize this name that we have given it. So I would look at this as something as being kind of a statement of intent and kind of a bone to the culture warriors that are in his base.
And it is worth noting, the Gulf of Mexico has had that name for longer than the United States has existed as a country. But it's not just one Gulf Trump wants to claim. There's also a canal.
The United States, think of this, spent more money than ever spent on a project before and lost 38,000 lives in the building of the Panama Canal.
It's long been a grievance of Donald Trump that the U.S. did indeed build the Panama Canal and then gave it to Panama to own and operate. The Panama Canal is one of the busiest and most important shipping lanes in the world. It is the only way to cross Central America by ship. And Panama charges those ships hundreds of thousands of dollars each, in many cases, just to cross. Trump claims American ships are charged unfairly, which appears to be untrue.
It's expensive to use the Panama Canal. You save a lot of time and you save a lot of money, but the tolls are quite high. They're no higher for U.S. ships, however. The canal treats ships from all countries similarly.
But Trump's position is Trump's position.
We gave it to Panama, and we're taking it back.
And on this, Trump has been explicitly clear. His administration will assert American authority well beyond its own borders.
The United States will once again consider itself a growing nation, one that increases our wealth, expands our territory.
Because, he says, Americans have spoken. He is the president. And with both the House and the Senate under Republican control, Donald Trump becomes, once again, the leader of the most powerful nation on earth. And his work officially begins now.
We stand on the verge of the 4 greatest years in American history. The future is ours, and our golden age has just begun. Thank you. God bless America. Thank you all. Thank you.